It's 2:14 p.m. in downtown Atlanta. The air inside First Union Capital Bank smells like marble polish and money. That quiet arrogance some places wear like perfume. Nia Carter walks through the revolving glass doors, holding a small black folder. She looks ordinary, too ordinary for a place like this. Black turtleneck, jeans, clean sneakers, no designer bag, no diamond watch, just quiet composure. She smiles politely at the security guard who doesn't smile back. That's fine. She's used to that. Inside, the line moves slowly. Men in suits tap their phones. Women in tailored skirts glance at her, then at her clothes, the kind of glances that don't have to speak to be heard. She wasn't there to cash a check. She was there to decide if this bank would survive the next quarter. Nia stands patiently, scrolling through an email from her CFO. The subject line reads, "Final confirmation, $5 merger authorization." She breathes in slowly. The deal has been months in the making, an acquisition that would rescue this very bank from collapse. Irony has a strange sense of timing. The teller at the far end, Cynthia Hale, glances up. She's been at this job for over 15 years, the type who prides herself on knowing people, the type who believes she can spot who belongs and who doesn't. When Nia reaches her counter, Cynthia doesn't greet her. Just one word, flat and unimpressed. "Yes?" Nia, calm as ever, says softly, "Good afternoon. I'm here to finalize a corporate transfer on behalf of Etherlink Systems." Cynthia blinks, eyes flicking over her outfit. "Corporate?" She almost laughs. "This line is for corporate clients, ma'am. You might want to try the personal banking desk across the hall." Nia's tone doesn't change. "I'm where I need to be." The businessman behind her chuckles, loud enough for her to hear, quiet enough to feel safe doing it. Cynthia leans forward, voice sharper now. "I said this line is for corporate clients. You people can't just walk in here and say anything." The room shifts. Conversations die down. Every head turns, not because they care, but because people love a spectacle when they aren't the one being humiliated. Nia's gaze meets Cynthia's. She's seen that tone before, that strange mix of pity and power, the kind that turns everyday errands into silent battles. She opens her folder, revealing the authorization documents, all stamped and signed. "I believe this is sufficient." Cynthia doesn't even glance at the papers. "I'll need to see ID and proof that this account is actually in your name." Nia slides her ID across. The teller looks at it, then at her, eyes narrowing, like the two don't match. The problem wasn't her ID. It was the audacity of walking into a place that already decided who she was before she said a word. Behind them, the businessman shifts impatiently. "Can we hurry this up? Some of us have real business to handle." Cynthia nods as if in agreement. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside." Nia stays still, calm, collected. "I'd like to speak to your branch manager." Cynthia scoffs, her smile curdling. "Oh, of course, everyone wants the manager when things don't go their way." Then she does it. When Nia gently places her hand on the counter, not angrily, not even assertively, just resting there, Cynthia smacks it away. A sharp slap that echoes through the marble hall. Gasps fill the air. A woman near the corner drops her coffee lid. Even the security guard looks up. Cynthia's voice drops, venom hiding behind a fake calm. "Don't touch the counter." Nia's hand hangs there mid-air for a moment, then slowly she lowers it. She doesn't raise her voice, doesn't curse, doesn't even blink twice. She simply says, "All right," and walks out. What she didn't know, what no one in that building knew, was that her next 5 minutes would cost the entire bank everything. Outside, the afternoon sun hits her face. The heat feels heavier than it should. She exhales once, steady, and keeps walking. Not toward her car, not toward revenge, just for clarity. Every step echoes a familiar memory of every time she'd been questioned, doubted, overlooked. She could feel the weight of it, but this time something about her silence felt different. Inside the bank, Cynthia straightens her blouse, proud of herself. She leans toward the businessman and says, "Some people really think they can just walk in anywhere these days." He chuckles, shakes his head. "You did the right thing." They don't notice the branch manager, Greg Larson, watching from the second-floor balcony. He saw the slap. He saw the look on Nia's face when she left. Not embarrassment, not fear, just quiet awareness. Greg turns to his assistant. What was her name again? The assistant scrolls through the appointment list. Nia Carter. She said she was finalizing something for Etherlink Systems. Greg freezes. The colour drains from his face. He opens his laptop, typing fast. Pulls up the confidential partner list. There it is, the name he hoped he misheard. Primary liaison, Nia Carter, CEO, Aetherlink Systems. He doesn't say a word, just stares at the screen, knowing exactly what this means. Because sometimes the person you look down on is the one signing the deal that keeps your lights on. Meanwhile, Nia finally reaches her car, a black Tesla parked across the street. She slides into the driver's seat, closes the door, and sits in silence. For a moment, she just watches the building through the glass. The same building whose future now rests in her hands. Her phone buzzes. A reminder pops up on screen. Conference call. Board review, 2:30 p.m. She looks at the time. It's 2:20. 10 minutes. That's all it would take to end $5 billion of business. But she doesn't rush. She closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and whispers, "They'll learn." Then she opens her laptop. If you're still here, hit subscribe, because stories like this aren't fiction. They're reflections of what happens when grace meets power. As she connects to the secure call, the reflection of the bank shines on her car window behind her. Still standing tall, still unaware of what's coming. The camera of life zooms out. The woman they dismissed as ordinary is about to become the reason their empire falls. 5 minutes later, the same teller who mocked her would be out of a job, and the same bank that belittled her would be fighting for survival. Inside Nia's black Tesla, she pulls her phone from her pocket, taps a single icon, board secure link, emergency session. The screen lights up. 7 faces appear. The board members of Aetherlink Systems, her company, her vision, her fight. The chairman, a calm British man named Charles Hensley, leans forward. "Miss Carter, we weren't expecting an early call. Is something wrong?" Nia adjusts her laptop camera. Her voice doesn't shake. "I've just completed the site visit at First Union Capital." A pause. "And?" She takes a slow breath. "I'm withdrawing them from our merger proposal, effective immediately." 30 seconds of silence follow. No one moves, not even Charles. This deal had taken months of negotiation. $5 billion on the table. A struggling bank about to be absorbed into Aetherlink's global infrastructure network. And now, with 12 words, it was gone. "May I ask why, Miss Carter?" another board member says, his tone somewhere between confusion and disbelief. Nia looks out the window at the same building she just walked out of. The same building where she'd been dismissed for looking ordinary. Her answer comes soft, but it lands heavy. "Because some cultures can't be fixed by capital," she says. "They have to feel the cost." Charles blinks. "Was there an incident?" There was clarity. For a moment, even the city outside feels quiet. Then Charles leans back, eyes narrowing slightly. "I trust your judgment, Nia, I always have, but this will make noise." Nia closes her laptop. "I'm counting on it." Inside the bank, word spreads fast, whispers travelling faster than policy. A teller saw her name on the slip. Another recognized her from an interview in Forbes. By the time it reaches the manager's office, Greg Larson is already sweating. He's seen enough scandals to know when the storm's begun. He rewinds the security footage, plays it again. There's Cynthia, chin high, voice sharp, dismissive. There's Nia, calm, collected, backing away after the slap on her hand. Greg stops the footage and zooms in on her face. Then, with trembling hands, he pulls up the partnership documents in his email. There it is, right on the first page. Primary contact Nia Carter, CEO, Aetherlink Systems. His stomach drops. He looks at Cynthia, who's standing outside his glass door, fidgeting. "Cynthia," he calls out quietly. She steps in, her tone impatient. "Yes, Greg?" He turns the monitor toward her. Her eyes widen. "That's her," he says, "the woman you just insulted." Cynthia's voice cracks. No, that's not possible." Greg doesn't raise his voice. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" She stammers something about not knowing, about how she looked, but Greg cuts her off. "That woman just pulled a $5 billion deal. Do you know what that means for us? Because prejudice doesn't just ruin lives. Sometimes it ruins balance sheets too." Meanwhile, back in her car, Nia scrolls through her emails, closing tabs one after the other. A meeting request from the bank's parent board. Declined. A message from her assistant. "Everything okay, ma'am?" She types back, "It will be." She isn't angry, just done. She watches the street for a second, a delivery boy passing by, an old woman carrying groceries. Real people. People who, like her, had been dismissed too many times. Then, almost like a whisper to herself, she says, "Never again." Her phone rings. It's Charles again. "Nia," he says, voice lower now. "Just for protocol, should I alert PR?" "No," she replies. "Let them find out the way they treated me, through their own cameras." If you're still watching, this is what Untold Black Struggle stands for. Stories they don't show, moments they try to bury. If you believe power doesn't always need noise to make change, subscribe right now so you never miss what comes next. Back at the bank, Greg rushes between offices. Phones are ringing. Someone's already called corporate. By evening, a confidential report has landed in the inbox of First Union CEO Miles Everett. Subject line: urgent. Incident involving Etherlink CEO at Atlanta branch. Inside a video clip, 37 seconds long. The moment Cynthia slapped Nia's hand off the counter, Miles watches it 3 times. Each time he exhales more slowly. When he's done, he sends 2 messages. One to legal, one to HR. The third, to the entire executive team, is just 3 words: find Miss Carter. Meanwhile, Nia drives through Peachtree Street, the late sun glinting off the buildings like gold. The radio hums faintly. She's calm, detached, almost peaceful, because she knows something they don't. In 5 minutes, the woman they called ordinary will erase their lifeline. Not out of vengeance, out of principle. And the only thing more powerful than anger is composure backed by consequence. She pulls over by Centennial Park, steps out and walks toward the fountain. The breeze carries the scent of rain. The phone buzzes again, an alert from her board confirming the transaction cancellation. She watches the numbers disappear on her screen, billions erased like chalk from a board. And somewhere across town, panic sets in. Greg paces the manager's office. Cynthia's been sent home. The CEO is on a plane. The press hasn't even heard yet, but they will. Because by morning, that 27-second clip, the slap, the stares, the silence, will leak. And when it does, the world will learn what happens when a system mistakes quiet for powerless. Because the moment Nia Carter said withdraw the deal, she didn't just move money, she moved the ground beneath them. The clock on the wall of First Union Capital's corporate office hits 4:12 p.m. By then the story has already reached the top floor. Emails fly like bullets. Phones ring. Screens flash red with stock alerts. Etherlink Systems, Nia Carter's company, has formally withdrawn its acquisition offer. $5 billion gone. To the executives upstairs, feels like a fire alarm no one can turn off. To the staff downstairs, it feels like karma finally clocked in. Because sometimes the sound of justice isn't loud, it's the quiet collapse of everything built on arrogance. In the conference room, Miles Everett, the bank's CEO, stands with his sleeves rolled up. His tie is gone, his patience too. He looks around at the faces of his executive team, pale, nervous, all pretending not to know why this happened. Who caused this, he demands. Who? Silence. Until Greg Larson, the Atlanta branch manager, clears his throat. It started with an incident, sir, at the local branch. Miles turns sharply. Incident? Greg swallows hard. One of our tellers, Cynthia Hale, may have mistreated Miss Carter. Miles narrows his eyes. Mistreated how? Greg hesitates, verbally and physically. That word, physically, lands like a grenade in the room. Someone gasps. Someone else mutters a curse. Miles doesn't sit. He walks to the window, watching the city skyline shimmer under the late afternoon sun. Then slowly he says, "You're telling me the woman whose company was about to save us was assaulted in our lobby?" Greg nods. Miles exhales, his jaw tightening. "Get her in here," he says. "Now." Downstairs, Cynthia Hale sits at her desk, hands shaking. She's been scrolling Twitter non-stop. Somehow the story is already spreading. A few anonymous tweets, a grainy screenshot of Nia in the bank, and a headline forming in real time. Black tech CEO humiliated inside bank just days before merger. Cynthia feels the blood drain from her face. When Greg calls her up, she walks like someone walking to a courtroom. Inside the executive boardroom, she sees Miles Everett for the first time. The CEO she used to name-drop when showing off at after-work dinners. Now he's staring at her like she's a virus that infected his bank. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. "Explain," he says quietly. Cynthia's voice breaks. I didn't know who she was. She looked... Stop. Miles cuts her off with a hand gesture. You didn't need to know who she was. You just needed to treat her like a human being. Cynthia looks down, whispering through tears. "I'm sorry." Miles leans forward. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry for what it cost. Because when power shifts, apologies start sounding like excuses. Across town, Naya sits in her living room. A cup of chamomile tea rests beside her. Her phone buzzes non-stop. Board members, journalists, even competitors are trying to confirm if the rumours are true. She doesn't answer any of them. Not yet. On her TV, muted, a local news ticker scrolls across the bottom. Breaking. Etherlink Systems withdraws $5 billion deal with First Union Capital. She watches the words glide past, slow and unbothered, like time itself. Then she opens her notebook and writes 3 words, grace over noise. She closes the book and exhales. Meanwhile, the bank's PR department scrambles to contain the fallout. They issue a vague statement. First Union Capital is reviewing an internal matter involving an employee and a valued client. But it's too late. The internet has already decided the narrative. Within hours, hashtags begin trending. Bank while black, Naya Carter, grace over noise. And with every post, more customers line up at ATMs, not to deposit, but to withdraw. If you're still watching, this is the part people don't talk about, the part where arrogance meets its receipt. If you believe stories like this deserve a louder spotlight, subscribe right now and keep the message alive. By nightfall, the stock price drops 18%. Investors pull funding. The bank's parent board calls for an emergency session. And in that same boardroom where Cynthia once stood, Miles Everett receives the report no CEO wants to read. Projected collapse within 30 days if liquidity partners withdraw. He rubs his temples, muttering, all over one mistake. Greg, still seated near the corner, says softly, no, sir, all over years of letting mistakes like that slide. Miles looks up, eyes weary. You think this is about race? Greg meets his gaze. I think this is about respect, and the lack of it finally got expensive. Because every system built on disrespect eventually pays interest, and the due date always comes. At 9:27 p.m., a video leaks. It's security footage from the Atlanta branch. Silent, grainy, time-stamped. It shows everything. Nia approaching the counter, Cynthia's dismissive gestures, the moment she slaps Naya's hand away, and the cold, silent walkout that followed. It spreads like wildfire. Within hours, millions of views. By morning, every major outlet is running it. CNN, MSNBC, Black Enterprise, even Bloomberg. Tech CEO walks out of racist bank, cancels $5 billion lifeline. Cynthia's face is everywhere. Her name, her actions, her smirk frozen in headlines she'll never escape. She turns off her phone, but the noise follows. In the middle of the chaos, Nia's assistant walks into her home office. There are over 100 interview requests, she says. Do you want to issue a statement? Nia shakes her head. Silence is the statement. She smiles faintly. They'll understand it louder that way. Because power doesn't always need microphones. Sometimes it just needs consequences. The next morning, First Union Capital's main branch is eerily quiet. The marble floors still shine, but the line at the counter is gone. Cynthia's desk, empty. Her nameplate was removed. Greg walks past, his expression unreadable. In the break room, someone whispers, she lost everything. Another replies, no, she just finally met someone she couldn't look down on. Across the city, Nia waters the small fern on her balcony, the sunrise painting her face gold. Her phone buzzes, a message from Charles, her chairman. The market is cheering your decision. Investors say it's a stand for ethics in finance. Nia types back, it wasn't a stand, it was a reminder. She sets the phone down and looks out across Atlanta, the city that tried to humiliate her one afternoon and ended up rewriting its headlines overnight. Because when the world finally sees who you are, they also see who they've been all along. The next day, the morning light spills through the glass panels of the newly opened Carter Foundation Center, gleaming against polished marble floors. A banner outside reads, Empowering Tomorrow's Founders. Inside, the air hums with a quiet kind of pride, the kind that doesn't shout for validation. At the center of it all stands Nia Carter, wearing the same black turtleneck she wore the day she was humiliated at First Union Capital. Only this time, the look means something different. Power reclaimed, dignity untouchable. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud, it's legacy. Camera pans through the crowd, investors, journalists, and dozens of young black women with notebooks and hope in their eyes. They're here to witness not just a building opening, but a new chapter. A reporter whispers to her cameraman, that's her, the woman who cancelled a $5 billion deal, just like that. But Nia isn't thinking about that day anymore. She's thinking about what came after, the flood of letters, the apologies, the partnerships she turned down quietly because some offers came with pity, not respect. She steps up to the podium. The room falls still. People mistake humility for weakness, she begins softly, because they don't understand what quiet power looks like. It doesn't need to prove itself, it just moves, and when it moves, everything around it shifts. The audience leans in. There's something magnetic about how she speaks. No performance, no ego, just calm certainty. 5 weeks ago, I walked into a bank, she continues, and a woman there decided she knew who I was before I even spoke. To her, I was just another face, one she could dismiss. What she didn't know was that the decision she made that afternoon would change her entire company's fate. A few heads nod. The crowd already knows the story. They've read the headlines. But hearing it from her, it hits different. Because some stories don't need to be told for revenge. They need to be told for reflection. Nia pauses, scanning the room. I didn't cancel that deal to prove a point, she says. I did it to protect a standard. Every time we let disrespect slide, we reinforce the idea that we're used to it. I'm not. She glances at the front row, a group of teenage girls from a local high school invited to attend the launch. One of them wipes a tear. Not because it's sad, but because it's powerful to see someone who looks like her standing where few ever do. The applause that follows isn't loud, it's meaningful. Then Nia adds with a faint smile, and for anyone wondering if that moment set me back, it didn't. It set me free. If you're still watching, hit subscribe, because the truth is, stories like this don't just entertain. They remind you of the quiet kind of power we all have. Let's keep going. Outside the foundation, news crews are waiting. The caption on one mic reads, "The woman who turned racism into reform." Nia steps into the sunlight. Questions fire off. "Miss Carter, what message do you want people to take from this?" She stops for one. That sometimes, she says, you don't raise your voice, you raise your value. Because silence doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes it's strategy. And in a living room across town, the TV glows against a dim wall. Cynthia Hale sits there, hair unkempt, shoulders heavy, watching Nia's speech play on the news. The camera zooms slightly, not for pity, but for irony. She whispers, "I didn't know," but the words hang in the air, pointless now. The phone beside her buzzes with another rejection email. Meanwhile, inside First Union Capital, chaos hasn't ended. 3 senior executives have resigned. Their PR team is in damage control mode. The boardroom that once laughed at diversity quotas is now begging for inclusion consultants. But the trust? It's gone, evaporated. And in a twist of poetic justice, one of Nia's new initiatives, the Financial Dignity Program, has just partnered with a competitor bank to help underrepresented entrepreneurs access funding. First Union's name is nowhere near it, because when one door closes out of arrogance, another opens for purpose. Back inside the Carter Foundation Center, Nia is approached by a journalist from Forbes. "Miss Carter," he says, "do you ever think about what would have happened if that day went differently?" She tilts her head slightly. If she hadn't reacted the way she did, maybe their company would have survived. But then again, maybe this center wouldn't exist. Sometimes loss clears space for legacy. The journalist smiles. "And do you think she learned her lesson?" Nia looks thoughtful for a moment. "I think life teaches everyone eventually, one way or another, but you can't wait around for their apology. You just build something so strong, they're forced to see you differently next time." The line lands heavy. Outside, people are taking pictures, shaking hands and exchanging business cards. The future is already happening around her. Then her assistant rushes over, whispering, "New email from Sterling Global Bank. They said, and I quote, 'We'd be honoured to handle your accounts.'" Nia chuckles softly. "Did they? Should I reply?" She shakes her head. "Not yet. Let them wait." Because sometimes making them wait is part of the lesson. In a world obsessed with shouting the loudest, sometimes the quietest voice carries the farthest. Nia Carter didn't fight to be seen. She built something that couldn't be ignored. She walks toward the exit as the camera follows behind, steady, slow. Outside, young women gather around her for photos, hugs, and mentorship. One of them says, "Miss Carter, I want to build something like you one day." Nia smiles. "You will. Just remember, you don't have to be loud to be heard. Because true power doesn't argue, it simply decides who gets to stay in the room.